TWAB for February 3rd, 2022. At the top of the page, there is a huge announcement for Sony acquiring Bungie. We have already made a video on this, and we'll leave a link in the description for that video, so I won't be covering it in this one. To start things off, looks like over 1 million Guardians have pre-ordered the Witch Queen already, so expect some huge queue times on launch, but to be honest, that's to be expected. This has happened every launch so far, and to be honest, it is exciting to play on launch day. We'll try to do it, but we might have to wait until a little bit later to get in, especially if the servers crash again. First things first, there is a announcement for where weapon crafting is going to be done. It's called the Enclave. Guardians will have a mission or a few missions at the beginning of the campaign to be able to find the location, learn how to use it, as well as some quick tutorials on how crafting works. And then from there, you'll start to build your first glaive. It's a new weapon archetype that was introduced in the Witch Queen. All the necessary materials will be provided, of course, and then a short tutorial during said time on how to find those materials for future craftings. There is going to be a small subset of weapons and archetypes that will be craftable from the start. Looks like more will be added in the future. I'm not sure how they're going to add more, with it being either missions throughout the first season or if they're going to add them in future seasons. But for right now, we'll just have to wait until they either add more information or we find out in game. So looks like in order to shape your future tools of destruction, according to TWAB, you'll need to do some research. So bounties, missions, locations, I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. But there are things called patterns, which are essentially blueprints. You'll have to find patterns, and then looks like some will be acquired through quest completions. So there's one answer on there. They might not all be quest completions, but we'll see. Okay, they did mention that. It looks like other ones are completed various gameplay objectives as well. So probably through like public events, strikes, crucible matches, gambit matches, stuff like that. I assume. Looks like once you've earned your desired pattern, it can be crafted at any time as long as you have the required materials. And from there, it looks like they get into the meat of it. Looks like after crafting your first glaive, any randomly rolled weapon throughout the game have a chance to drop with a new ability called Deep Sight Resonance. This will be used to begin you to start targeting specific traits to craft. Looks like as an example they've listed is a Deep Sight Resonance legendary auto rifle with Rampage perk. You can complete an objective and extract the essence of the perk to then craft a weapon with Rampage or another perk that increases damage. So it's not just tied to Rampage, but it'll have other things that have similar abilities. Any item or weapon that has a Deep Sight Resonance on it will have a red border signaling that effect, and then it'll have additional tasks in the mod page that'll tell you exactly what you need to do to be able to attune. So similar to current weapons, not every weapon will be compatible with every trait, so you aren't going to be able to put, blinding grenades onto like an auto rifle, for example. It just doesn't make sense. So that's kind of going to be in there, which is interesting. I'd like to see how that's going to work in the actual campaign. But if it's similar to how it is now, I don't think we're going to be surprised by much. Once a weapon is crafted, Guardians may begin to increase its level by using it in activities or by defeating enemies. This is where a bulk of your crafting playtime will be. The more you use the weapon, the faster you unlock its full potential. So it looks like it'll probably have multiple perks. I believe they said it's going to be 3 in total instead of 2. That's incredible. And you might have to unlock them as the more you use it. Kind of like you're tuning your weapon to be the best it can be. But that's how I'm taking it anyway. Enhanced stats and traits can be unlocked when reaching higher levels, granting slight bonuses to your weapon's capabilities. Our goals through the system is to give players a reason to invest in their weapons far beyond what Masterworking would offer in the past. So that's going to be cool. Looks like we're going to be able to stick with some weapons and then work on them so that way they get better over time. That's going to be kind of cool. Keep people from just sticking to one set. They can, tune other weapons to how they want to play with it. You're not subject to, just random god rolls all the time. You can get it the way you want it. And then, that'll definitely increased the weapon pool for a lot of people. I know I've been using the same weapons throughout the entire season of The Lost. So be glad to, change things up for once. It also looks like we're going to have the ability to reshape crafted weapons in the Enclave. So if we want to mix up components after we finish crafting them, you can do that. You can switch up to what the barrel, mags, or traits you choose, so you don't feel like you've got locked down on one path forever. So if something you chose doesn't quite work out the way you thought it was going to, you can always go back and change things up, so that way you can fine tune it to where it feels so much better, and it just gets it to just the right spot where you're happy with what you've done. That's always nice, because I'd hate to just create something and then find out that, oh, these 2 perks on this weapon are kind of garbage. Now I have to start from square one. And to be honest, I'm super happy that it did this, because that's going to take out so much frustration from a lot of people, including myself, because now I don't have to scrap everything, start from the beginning, and then just keep working on it until I find something that works well. Upon further inspection, it looks like there's things called mementos. I'm not sure what they mean by this, but I guess it's little trinkets or little bits to add to your weapons to provide some extra flair. Looks like more of these will come online through trials and Grandmaster Nightfalls, but they have more plans for those down the line for a new in-game rarity cosmetic item for players to chase as they build out their new arsenal of weaponry. It'd be kind of cool to see what those are going to turn into. I hope it's going to be something useful, not some sort of like cosmetic effect. If it is a cosmetic effect, that's perfectly fine. I'm not too mad about it. But with it being tied to trials as well as Grandmaster Nightfalls, I'm assuming it's going to have some sort of pretty big significance. Ooh, also looks like just below that, there is a thing called exotic crafting, which is going to be awesome. The upcoming Asteo Striga exotic SMG and the 3-class unique exotic glaives can also be used through the Enclave once you find their respective patterns, of course. So it looks like the SMG that kind of looks like Recluse a little bit in my eyes is craftable, as well as 3 exotic glaives, which I didn't know about. I thought we just had the legendary versions of those, but it looks like there's some exotic ones available. It'd be kind of cool to see how those work, what their perks are, and what they're going to do for actual combat. Now, while legendary weapons can be crafted from the ground up, exotic crafting is more about fine-tuning something with a defined identity. So looks like it might have the ability to change a few things, but I'm sure it's going to be set in stone with what exactly it's going to have onto it. Maybe with a couple random things, how Deadman's Tale and Hawkmoon have those rollable traits. Maybe we'll have some of those, but you're going to have your main ability, as most exotics do. Now into the more nitty gritty bits. This is a lot of the tunings that they've been doing, a lot of the weapon reworks. Let's see what they've done here. So some of the pursuit weapons got some changes. Looks like some of the stuff they did with the pursuit weapons is that they wanted it to be what they call 70% of a god roll in its archetype. They want it to be a nice solid weapon that people can earn with perk options that both work well in PvP and PvE, and which is reliably obtained without a huge grind from what I can see here that they've posted. Should act as a good starter weapons for both PvP and PvE, while leaving space for weapons from pinnacle activities like trials, raids, and nightfalls to exceed its potential. So there's a breakdown. So they put Adored as a good sniper rifle, but better sniper rifles shipped alongside it or since. So they're saying that, hey, this weapon is still good, but it's not the best. Here's something to kind of set you off on your path for finding something better. Some stuff about Salvage Salvo, with it being a breach grenade launcher for room clearing, but it doesn't have the utility of blinding grenades or other auto-loading holsters. Stuff with null composure, with it being a good fusion rifle. So from what I can take from this little section is that all of their pursuit weapons are just there to help players out and kind of give them something decent to use for the time being until they find something better. I kind of like that. It's nice to grind to something like that, especially during an early expansion or early season. Just so that way, everyone kind of has a nice fair fighting chance. You're not stuck with something garbage. So in a spot called Origin Traits, they were talking about the difficulty of making different weapons of the same type feel unique for years at this point. And they were doing something about it by including a origin trait determined by its source in a third trait column. So here's that third trait that I was mentioning earlier. So it looks like instead of it rolling with just 2 traits, it's going to have a third trait in the end. So it's going to have stuff including all new legendary weapons and all returning Trials, Iron Banner, Nightfall weapons. So it looks like it's going to be kind of all around. They vary in effect, but the guideline is that they either have a high uptime or medium power effects, or low uptime and high power. So it's kind of either or. We'll see how that goes on launch. There's going to be 14 origin traits in total shipping in the Witch Queen and season 16. I'm going to expect to ship around 3 new ones each season after season 16. So 1 for season 17, 1 for the raid or dungeon, and 1 for the seasonal event until we have 1 for each event. That's pretty cool. So we're going to have some stuff to choose from, and then we're going to get some additional ones throughout the year. So when they refresh old weapons from a given source, either from an existing raid or old pool of seasonal weapons, they may create a new origin trait at the same time. So we might see some old ones come back, or some other ones get reused, or we'll get a new one entirely. That's pretty cool. So for example, they have one for Trials called Alacrity, or Alacrity. My apologies on the pronunciation. I know I'm going to get eaten up about that. So it looks like you can gain increased reload, stability, aim assist, and range when you're the last living member of your fire team or running solo. They give some stats for that, which I'll just leave for the curious about those. Nightfall strikes, stunning recovery. Stunning a champion partially refills your magazine, triggers health regeneration, and improves recovery for a short duration. That one's going to be really nice, especially if it's outside of Nightfall strikes. So in any champion, wherever they're at, having something like that would be really good for PvE. Crucible, 1 quiet moment grants increased reload speed when out of combat. I can see where that would be pretty useful, especially in Crucible if you need to reload something like a heavy weapon or a shotgun, something with special ammo. That would definitely help speed things up and get you out of a pickle. Strikes have Vanguard's Vindication. Final blows with this weapon grant a small amount of health. Small is about 7 health. That one I'm kind of about, but depending on what they mean by 7 health, we'll see how that goes. It doesn't seem like it's going to be very great, or it's going to be something that people are going to want to go to. Looks like Nightfall weapons can select between Nightfall and Vanguard traits. Trials weapons can also be selecting between Trials and Crucible traits. Pursuit weapons can select between Gambit, Vanguard, and Crucible, which makes sense because we've been seeing the 3 different variants of those Pursuit weapons the last few seasons. Looks like we got what seems to be like a lore entry in here for weapon foundries. I won't read through that yet. For the curious of those, I recommend going to read it. It's pretty interesting, but it would just take up too much time to read through the whole thing, at least in this video. So in season 16, it looks like they're replacing the old world loot pool with 12 new weapons in the style of the Destiny 2 Year 1 Foundry weapon sets. 3 weapons each from Suros, Omlon, Hockey, and Viced Foundries, plus 1 Foundry weapon each for Vanguard, Gambit, and Crucible. There's some similar ones in here. I don't know what that one looks like. It looks like Death Adder. We got some scout rifles, sniper rifles, annual skates in there. I apologize. I don't know all the names of these weapons, but they're definitely some familiar weapons that people either are going to love or hate, but we'll see how those work. I'm kind of excited for those. Each weapon will come with a Foundry origin trait themed around that Foundry's personality. Suros Synergy, reloading grants this weapon bonus handling and reducing incoming flinch for a short time. Hockey will have breach armaments. This weapon deals increased damage against vehicles, turrets, barricades, and stasis crystals. I can see that one being really good against some specific strikes. Omlon Fluid Dynamics for the Omlon Foundry. This weapon has increased reload speed and stability for the top half of the magazine. Definitely interesting. I'd like to see some builds with that. Viced Stinger, chance on damage to partially refill this magazine's, or this weapon's magazine. I don't know why I said it like that, but oh well. In addition to the Foundry origin trait, each Foundry weapon's perk pools lean into that Foundry's identity. Big damage for Hockey, consistency for Suros, ability tie-ins, and weird stuff for Omlon. Fair. It says it right there on the TWAB. I ain't making that up. Go look if you don't believe me. Never stop firing for Viced. So that's kind of going to be interesting. It's going to have their own like little personalities, I feel. Looks like there's an upcoming Vanguard shotgun, Crucible hand cannon, and a Gambit auto rifle. Interesting. All right. There's some other nitty gritties about how those are going to work. I'll leave those out for right now. But it's definitely some much needed improvements on the current system for the upcoming expansion. I In fact, I'm already getting hyped up just reading all this. This is pretty exciting. Some global changes. Kill trackers were once one reason to masterwork weapon, but now we see no reason to gain these behind masterworking. Looks like kill trackers will be default on all weapons that shipped in Forsaken and later. So it looks like you'll be able to have that nice little kill tracker regardless of masterwork or not. That's pretty exciting. So now you don't have to like spend unnecessary resources on a gun you're only going to use for like 2 weeks. So masterworking should no longer be seen as mandatory, and we expect to be the +10 to a weapon stat to only matter to dedicated PvP players. Oh, really? Okay, that's incredible. We have no specific plans to change masterworking at this stage, but we'll revisit it later. Okay, so it looks like masterworking won't be necessary unless you want to be a sweat lord in PvP and get that little extra +10 to your weapon stat. So following in the armor team's footsteps, weapon mods for legendary weapons are now free and instant to insert. Okay, that's a good change. I believe that the main pain points around special weapons in Crucible are exacerbated by how easy it is to currently acquire special ammo. And we've touched this in the past. We're making a further adjustment now. Players now only drop 1 special ammo on death or equivalent, no matter how much they were carrying, as long as they weren't completely empty. The maximum you can pick off a special brick is 1 for a shotgun, fusion rifle, or sniper rifle, or equivalent for other weapons. Scavenger mods add this as normal, but we'll be reevaluating their place in the Crucible in the future. Okay, that's pretty interesting. I guess that's in Crucible. That'll be interesting. Alrighty. Players quickly found another way to execute the quick swap glitch, so we fixed another animation cancel. Very nice. Some adjustments to archetypes. The Season 15 fusion rifle rework had a lot of moving parts. Rapid fire, precision adaptive fusion rifles are all too strong. Looks like we're just talking about some balancing on some abilities, or some archetypes rather. Energy damage up to make it easier for those to land kills for the high impact fusions. So they increased the damage per bolt up a couple notches. Looks like we got a buff to rocket launchers as well. So a little higher precision, higher impact, adaptive, and aggressive. So that'll be nice. So let's see how that works with Gjallarhorn. Maybe Gjallarhorn will make its comeback into being the go-to rocket launcher. Some more exotic rifle buffs and nerfs. Looks like we have some primary weapons for exotics and tracer rifles that got an increased damage versus miners in PvE. Chaperone got buff or reduced range buff, so they got nerfed a little bit in PvP. Duality as well. Teraba got some, looks like a little bit of a nerf. Oh, constraint is a little bit harsher. It looks like actually instead of a nerf, it's a little bit of a buff. So it now reduces perk progress by half instead of clearing it on weapon stow. Oh, nice. Increased Ravenous Beast duration. Okay, some more stuff like Ruinous Effigy. Got increased damage dealt by guarding with the Transmute Sphere. Lumina got a buff as well. The range got increased as well as the base stability. And it looks like people left, they left Thorn alone. There's a few others that are pretty notable. So stuff like Aegir Scepter, Deadman's Tail, Lawrence Driver, and Forerunner all got a few buffs or nerfs. Looks like I'm seeing more buffs than nerfs this time around, which is nice. And it looks like for the rest of the TWAB, it's just a lot of just data on all the little changes they've done to some of the legendary weapons. Some of the perks got changed. We won't be going over all of those. There's just too much to really list. We'll leave those to the curious who want to see the exact changes on those. We do recommend you take a look through all that. It's definitely some insightful information. But this video is already getting quite long, so we want to kind of cut it as short as we can, so that way it's not too much of a information dump on one person. I appreciate you guys sitting around going with me through the TWAB. There's definitely a lot of stuff going on this week. I appreciate all of Bungie's hard work into development for this next upcoming expansion. It's definitely going to be a wild ride, especially with all these item and weapon changes. Hopefully they feel really good. I'm sure we'll get some tweaks here and there in the next coming weeks while they do their testing and whatnot. But for now, expect another video possibly next week, depending on what's included. And we hope you all have a great rest of your time, and we'll see you on Witch Queen launch.
you.